of the world.
Another win, another episode. Welcome back, guys.
Yeah,
But
yeah, we're having a hard time really not living up to the reputation of being the fair weather fans who only record after a big win. We're back. We're back for another episode. As you guys know, we've been trying hard to stay consistent, and we're working towards that. I have Joe with me, and I also have Risto. So you guys, I want to first check on you guys. How you guys doing today, Risto? I'll start with you, man. How you been since the last time we recorded, which was what before the Juve match? It's been a couple
yeah,
of weeks.
we were talking so much of the Juventus game, and I think it lived up to the hype,
Uh-huh.
especially before the game started. And I think
Uh,
as the game progressed, more and more we were. I don't know. I was content with the result because Juventus away was always going to be a hard and tough match.
uh,
But at the end of the day, I think 4 points out of two matches against the direct opposition
Rivals.
for is not a bad. It's not a bad thing, I would say.
No, absolutely. Well, that's an interesting answer. You said that it lived up to the hype in your opinion, and you also said that you were happy with the results. So that's something that I definitely want to circle back around to. But first, let's check in with Joe. How you been, my bro? It's been what 2-3 weeks since we last recorded. How
Yeah,
you been?
I've been good. I've been good. Just finished the semester for school, so
Awesome.
things are going well there, and yeah, loving Inter right now.
For real. You guys heard that, right? He just finished the semester for school. So if we don't get any more consistent episodes, you guys can go at Joe. Like Joe, you're not in school. Why are you not recording at least a solo episode? So guys, feel free to add pressure to Joe. Okay, he's not in school right now. He's on break. All right, let's get right into it, man. Risto, you said that the Derby d'Italia against Juve, in your opinion, it lived up to the hype. Uh, I want to start right off by giving a little pushback to that because I feel like okay, the first half, if anything, it lived up to the hype. It was a derby, but the second half, it was more like two scared teams, scared to make any mistakes and give up any points, and it made for quite a boring match to me. So what do you mean? Like you want to expound on that? To you, what do you mean? It lived up to the hype in your opinion?
I mean, for me, a derby match is always a match that's that has a lot of hype around it, but
Mhm.
also a match that both teams are very tactical in terms of how they're gonna attack and how their game plan is gonna be. For me, a
Mhm.
derby match is not gonna be a match that's gonna end 4-3. That's not a derby match. That's like
That's
a
true.
recreational match. And at least in Italy and in Serie A, as we have seen, throughout our lives and for the period that we have been following Inter, I think derby matches always end in a low result. I think that trend changed a couple of years ago with the Italian managers emerging and the mentality changing in the league.
Mhm.
And I think this match was, an epitome of everything that goes around in the league so far. I think Juventus went out and saw, or at least tested the waters to see whether they can win.
Mhm.
They saw that Inter is going to be in a mood today or at that day, and they were not going to be, breezing throughout the match. And I think Allegri has set up the team very well. Let's not
Yes.
forget that their defense is consisted of Gatti and some
Rugani.
Rugani.
like what the fuck? If there's any team out there that uses Gatti and Rugani in their starting center back positions, I think that team loses 9 out of 10 matches if they're not managed by
Well,
Allegri.
but let's also be fair and also mention Bremer because I guess he balances that out a bit. That Bremer is easily top three center backs in the league right now, right? But I want to throw it to Joe. How do you feel? I mean, Risto, he really gave me a great answer. I definitely understand now what he meant by it lived up to the hype. A derby, of course, they're usually very cagey tactical matches. So I guess the fact that we even got to see a little bit of football in the first half where it was a bit open, we should consider
Mhm.
ourselves lucky because derbies are usually just those cagey tactical matches, especially before the 13th match. I mean, match day 13. Not even 15th. So we're really not gonna be taking those chances. So yeah, tell me, Joe, how do you feel about the derby? What were your reactions?
Well, first half was way more open, like you guys said. I watched the match twice now, and first half was much more open. Allegri was a little less Allegri, and then gradually, after Inter scored the goal, they really started closing up shop, and then especially in the second half, both teams were very conservative. It became a very tactical battle. That being said, I don't think it was a match Inter could have won. If you look at, I think Inter were the better team on the balance of play, but I think in terms of, if you look at the match dynamics, to walk away with a point in that match, as opposed to going gung ho in the last 15 minutes, like Inzaghi would have probably done in the past.
Yes,
I think it showed maturity from Inzaghi and the squad that they got a point, because in the past they would have opened up, they would throw numbers forward, it would have been very risky. It would have been a very risky strategy. But now what we're seeing from this Inter is they know their moments, and I think that's very important. And above all the tactical analysis and the X's and O's, I think that's the mentality was there. And even if you're just taking a draw, and obviously we want to win every match, right? It's a derby. We want to win. We want to crush them.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you have to know what your capabilities are that day. You're just coming off an international break. Lautaro was just, and some of these players were just involved in a very physical, cagey match in Brazil.
Yeah.
It's a lot of travel.
Sorry to cut you in. That's something that we pointed out, and Dave pointed out 2 weeks ago, that the international break, not only as a break of 2 weeks, but also the fatigue of the players, especially the South American players.
Yep.
That have the travel. Yeah, very great point for both of you guys. So yeah, I want to add to that before we expound a little bit more in the match. As far as the result goes, like Joe brought it into perspective. I'm 100% satisfied with it. It's going away to Juve. Not any Juve match. I mean, not any Juve side. Second best team in the league if you're looking at the table, and you get away with 1 point. You maintain your 2 point lead, and then you know what? If anything, we'll see what happens when they play the other strong teams, because we have already done that. But let's expound a bit more on the performance before we move on to the next match. Who do you guys think? I mean, as far as that match, who do you guys think were our best performers? Who were you disappointed by? And tell me more about this game. Yeah. I'll start with you, Joe.
So one thing I've noticed tactically after watching it twice now was Allegri made a clear effort to shut down Inter's wingbacks.
Yep.
There was no width. Now, part of that's also Inzaghi. See, what we do sometimes to get a numerical advantage, because our wingbacks can't really beat their man. You know, DiMarco will play the 1-2 to beat their man. Yeah, one-on-one, they're not dribblers, right?
Yep.
So one thing Inzaghi usually does is he brings over Barella on one side and Mkhitaryan to the other to kind of get a numerical evenness, to allow the fullback to have a little more freedom, the wingback to have a little more freedom.
Overlap and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So in this match, Inzaghi didn't do that as much. There was more conservativeness because they didn't want to be caught out in the break by Allegri's Juve. And I think it's important to recognize that in terms of that's why the fullbacks didn't play well. That's why the match isn't as free as we usually like to see it. There wasn't as much attacking initiative because we rely a lot on Dumfries and especially DiMarco for creativity.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yeah. And you know, the goal was sensational. Yes. It was a beautiful build-up. One of the goals of the season in terms of team goals. And then Lautaro's run, the near post run that he made was amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
and dare I say that was Icardi-esque.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
We all from Inter Twitter. We know that one clip that it resurfaces a couple times a year. That silent clip in the Milan Derby where he's just silently. It's like he's stalking the spray, and then you see his movement. He fakes the run and then cuts back in at the last minute. That was awesome, and I agree with you, Joe. That goal, that was pure Inzaghi ball. That was direct football, three passes, and we were there. And what a weapon Thuram has become, man. I know we said it last episode that he's exceeded all our expectations, and he's continued to do so. We're sounding like broken records right now because we have to give this guy the praises. Even when he doesn't score, his ability to bait defenders into fouling him in the box and drawing penalties. That's something that we need to really start highlighting because it seems like he's doing it on purpose as opposed to just, oh, he's getting lucky, he's getting fouled in the box. So I want to go ahead and talk about the Juve goal since we didn't do that. We spoke about our goal. That was a very good goal. Um, of course, it looks bad on Dumfries, and that's the ball that he should easily deal with. But how do you guys feel? Do you guys feel like that's something that was coming? Or it's just a mistake that we kind of shot ourselves in the foot? Because I don't remember, but I feel like Juve by the time that they scored, it felt like in the run of play that they were the better team at the time. They were creating more chances. They had more of the ball. So from watching it, I didn't watch it live, but rewatching it, I kind of felt like the goal was coming, not necessarily from a mistake, but from the run of play. Do you guys agree?
Go ahead, Fristo.
Yeah, I mean, uh, it was in the air. I think the goal was hanging in the air, and it was lingering around the corner. And I think the most important thing in the situation was that yeah, Chiesa went down the left side. He dribbled, crossed, cut it in, and Vlahovic out of nowhere scores a goal. I think it was a bad defending on our side because we outnumbered the Juventus attackers. But
Yeah,
it happens. Lack of concentration. I think the buzziness, the atmosphere, and the situation in general. I understand that. I think the most important thing, as we have spoken about throughout the season and throughout the past few years, is the coming back period, because that's something that the team has mastered under Conte and was lacking in some matches with Inzaghi. I think this match and this season in general, I think the team has showed so much mentality and so much of the positive attributes that I would like to see in a team. In
yeah,
that, yeah, they always like they seem dangerous without doing anything. And for me, that's the mentality that you want in a team that's going to be a Scudetto winner or a potential Scudetto winner. Because not always you're going to dominate the match. We didn't dominate Juventus in the first half, quite the opposite. But at the end of the day, we showed passion. We had a few chances. In the second half, we restarted, and we drove the match into a silence. I think that was the tactics. You go
yeah,
out to Juventus not to lose because it's an away match. It's a historically difficult match for Inter, and
yeah.
I think the goal, as you said, was Icardi-esque. I loved the assist by Turam.
Mhm.
He has surprised me a lot. I
Me too.
expected some quality from him, but not to this extent, not this quick.
Same, same.
uh, like I've seen really good players in my lifetime, at least attackers when it comes to Inter, but Turam is definitely up there because like I would like to praise not only Turam but also Zomer, because Zomer has been,
Yes,
you know, that's something that like I'm positively surprised, especially with Onana's flounders in the Champions League and the Premier
yeah,
League.
yeah. Hmm.
But yeah, to go back to the match, I'm positively surprised because for me, a match against Juventus is a historically difficult match. We came on top of it, meaning, yeah, we had the better players on field, but Allegri's tactics and Allegri's excellence has to be recognized. We
100%.
played, yeah, and I think at the end of the day, both sides were fine with a draw. I don't know about
With a
what
draw.
about you. Dude?
No, I agree. I agree 100%. And just to wrap up that match, I agree. The result is good for us as far as Inter fans go. And let's touch about the next game. The following game. The game following that derby was in the Champions League. We traveled to Lisbon to play Benfica, and as we know, Inzaghi made a whole lot of changes to the starting 11. I believe nine, if I'm not mistaken, nine changes he made,
Eight
and
or nine, yeah.
8 or 9, yep. And we knew how that went. So I'll go ahead and start with Joe this time. I want you to take me through it. Like I know you don't miss a game, so I'm sure you were watching it.
Yeah.
How did you feel? I mean, I'm sure at first it was like, okay, you know what, whatever. Where if we lose, it's okay. If we get a draw, it's okay. But as we're seeing the team go down 3-0, I'm sure the feelings changed. So, but go ahead, bro.
3-0 to a João Mario hat trick.
Yes.
Yeah. I think this game is best symbolized by Jan Bisek in that the first half, Bisek and Inter were a mess, a hot mess. Defensively, everywhere, the midfield couldn't get a foothold in the game. It was just awful to watch. In fact, I tweeted at halftime, would you guys be mad at me if I switched over to the Napoli Real Madrid game? Now I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't because what followed in that second half was amazing.
Amazing.
But
Yeah.
that first half was just awful. And then we go to the second half, and apparently Inzaghi, I'm not sure. Some reports say he raised his voice in the locker room. I think Gazzetta reported that. Other reports say he took a very, as Nima, who's been on the show before, said he took a very Sven-Goran Eriksson approach and just kind of said, I could make 5 substitutions. And this is what he said that I could make 5 substitutions,
But that's not the problem.
That's not the problem. And one thing that you saw immediately out of halftime, obviously Arnautovic gets the first goal. And then Fortese gets the second, and then eventually get the penalty by Thuram. Borderline call, but still the penalty. Yeah. Is the reason why this match was symbolized by Jan Bisek. I've never seen a player have such a god-awful first half.
Yeah.
And then come out in the second half and look like Franz Beckenbauer. I was absolutely stunned. I mean, the tackles he was making, the forward progression of the ball, he was amazing in that match, in that second half. I was blown away by his performance, and that's why I think he symbolizes this match well. I wasn't surprised by the first half because, it's just that's kind of what happens when you rotate that much. The teams never play together. Some of these guys haven't played at all.
Yeah.
But the second half meant to show the mentality of the team was genuinely impressive. I don't know what you think, Dave. I'll hand it over to you.
No, you very well said. You've described it 100% how I feel as well. Going into the match for me, when I saw all of the changes, I always say the same thing. Okay, it's very clear for us this year that maybe management has made it clear to Inzaghi as well that they want the second star. So that's been the priority. We've seen them from the first game of the Champions League campaign, where you think you want to start strong with your strongest 11. He rotates against Real Sociedad. So he made it clear for us that, okay, you know what? I'm worried about the Scudetto. So when I saw all the changes, I'm like, okay, Inzaghi, as long as we beat Napoli, hint, 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 we're fine. So seeing the changes, I was expecting us to struggle, but not to that extent. And to be honest, a couple of those goals that we did concede were more of a like balls bouncing the wrong direction, and Mario got lucky. He was there. He was opportunistic and he took advantage of it. He had a career day. But I was very, very curious to see how we would react in the second half. Not just the team, but Inzaghi as well. I wanted to see if he was going to panic and throw on Lautaro and Barella and all the big names that he had to his disposal and pretty much say, okay, you know what, whatever my plan was for Napoli is out the window. I was happy to see that he showed the conviction to stick to whatever his initial plan was, and that although he did make the changes, he made them as he probably would have made them anyways. And the comeback started with the bench players that we had there. It was Arnautovic and it was Fratesi, until Thuram came in and had the impact. So I was happy to see it, and I also tweeted that for those that thought that the bad first half was an indication that we didn't have good depth players. It was like Joe mentioned, those guys they haven't played together. If we know our team, we know one thing about our team is that it's a well-oiled machine. It's a lot of movements, a lot of movement without the ball, knowing passing the ball, already knowing where your teammate is supposed to be. All that takes practice. And when you put a team out there that hasn't practiced together, it's not gonna happen. And it took time. So I'm glad it's equal again to the comeback against Juve. It shows the team's mentality. We had every reason to give up. Down 3-0 in Portugal for him to a match that doesn't count. We could have packed it in and said, okay, you know what, we'll take it out of Napoli. The fact that we fought all the way to the end and Barella, I believe, hit the woodwork late in that match. That means we had a decent, a realistic chance of winning it. It made me happy. It continues to what we spoke about in the Juve match, which is a show of good mentality for that team, and that's something that we're gonna need to win the Scudetto. So what do you think, Joe?
Well, I agree with every point. One thing I'll add is there was a lot of questioning at halftime whether, like you said, we have the depth. Do we actually, is our depth real or not? I think that second half showed it's 100% real, and it may not be as good as we think sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I think Arnautovic is better than a lot of people give him credit for. Yeah, he doesn't have the legs anymore, but he's still very technical.
Yeah.
He still can contribute in the build-up play. And he's a good finisher. I think he'll contribute to this team well if we just give it some time. And then when it comes to Aslani is another point I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Not a good first half. He gave away the ball for, I think, Porto's first or second goal.
The second goal, yeah.
Yeah. But overall, he improved in the second half quite a bit. I just think sometimes Aslani, in his mind, he's trying to do the pass that's going to impress everyone.
Yeah.
Right? The Hollywood pass.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all we need from you, Aslani, is just do the simple things sometimes.
The simple thing, yeah. And at that position, we need the simple things. But I wonder, I will let you finish, but I wonder, is it pressure on the kid to impress and earn more minutes, or is it just he's just a show off? What do you think?
I don't know. I think time will tell. He is a regista, in my opinion, so I don't think it's positionally the wrong thing, but the wrong role for him. But I just think he's still very young. Inter bought him after only half a season at Napoli, right out of their academy. And we have to be a little more patient with him, I think. This year, I do want to see growth. I really want to see growth. If there's not more growth this year, if we don't see a better decision maker, I'm going to start to worry a little bit.
Yeah, because he's still a young boy. He's 21, right?
21, yeah.
Yeah.
He's 21-year-old starting for the Albanian national team, qualified for the Euros.
Yeah.
So, not a slouch.
I agree.
Yeah.
And, I'll even add, I believe we've seen some growth already. I don't remember which match it was. Was it the Roma match where he had that beautiful switch of play to DeMarco and that led to a goal? That's what we want to see from our regista. So the growth is there, the signs are there, and I believe as he continues to play, we'll continue to see more of it.
One thing I'll also say is he's two-footed. He's two-footed.
Yes.
And that's genuinely impressive. And it's something I'm still worth betting on that, because as a regista, a two-footed regista, I agree. Yeah.
I agree. When your job is to be able to distribute the ball, being able to do it with any foot or any angle is a key attribute to have. So I agree with you 100% on that. Since we're on the Champions League, I'm sure we're not going to circle back around to it. Let's do a quick touch on the next match. You know, it's going to be the decider against Real Sociedad. First off, I want to know if you guys even care about topping the group. And secondly, I want to know what do you guys expect? Do you guys believe we're gonna get it done? Do you guys think Inzaghi is gonna rotate against Real Sociedad or whatnot? Go ahead, those questions. I'll start with Risto first, since he didn't talk last segment, and then we'll go to Joe.
Ooh, I love the question. I think, I'm excited about the Champions League because if we could do that with Benfica's, first, with Benfica's first team in a league where they are dominating as of now the league.
Yeah.
We saw what Porto can do last Champions League and how far they can go. So if Inter's second team can hold up their ground with Benfica, a team, as Joe said, and 11 players that haven't played with each other at all, most probably, with a goalkeeper that hasn't played a single minute in this season so far.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much excited, especially after Barila's post in the 95th minute, I think, something like that. So that shows the mentality that we spoke about during the Juventus game. I think that is the key in Inter's season and Inter adding the second star and in Inter competing for the Scudetto and, in my personal opinion, the biggest favorite to win it all. I have, let me just wait a second, bear with me. I want to just look at this with. It popped up on my feed. The key takeaway from I think the game against Benfica and Napoli is that Inter can win it all, UCL included. Sommer, Lautaro, another level with Thuram, and the Champions League altogether. I think that's something that not only us, I think we're even more like pessimistic, I would say, because we know what Inter can do and what Inter stands for.
Yeah.
And other people are more optimistic and more realistic, I think, in that way. So it's always a key point to listen to other people, especially people that are not Inter involved and
Neutrals,
they're
yeah.
not, yeah. Even people that do not like Inter, they can publicly say that Inter's mentality this season has been on another level. So us progressing in the Champions League is going to be, I think, key. What I would like to see is us reaching the first place because we saw how important that is in previous Champions League, rounds and quarterfinals and whatnot. So I think that would be my goal to win to win the last match and therefore win the first place in the group stages, because the second place teams are, I think, a bit less quality than the first place teams in this year's Champions League as well.
That's a good point. Before I kick it over to Joe, what do you expect Inzaghi to do? Do you expect Inzaghi to treat that match as a important match that he's going to play his strongest 11, or is he going to continue his theme of just rotating in the Champions League so he can keep his better 11 for the league match? What do you think?
I think as other Italian managers, I mean, Italian managers in general do not like to rotate. I think when they trust a player, they trust a player, like
Yeah.
big and capital letters. So I think he changed up and switched up the team because the Napoli game, in my honest opinion, was more important than the Benfica game. But he saw how important or how the game progressed, and when you are at the last at the last stage and at the last step, why not go for it all and go for the first place? Because the Napoli game is probably one of the 2-3 toughest games of the season. So
Agreed.
none of the games going forward until the end of the year, until the end of the calendar year, will not be as tough as Napoli was on paper. So I think he will go with the best 11 that he has on disposal. maybe you can put a question mark on how good the starting 11 will be, especially at the back, without Pavard, Bastoni, De Vrij, without any of your starting center backs.
Backs, yeah.
But we saw how good Darmian and Acerbi in the Champions League final. He like pocketed Haaland,
Haaland,
and
yeah.
he's not even a first team player. So I think he will go with the full team, in my honest opinion.
Okay. Now, Joe, I want to go ahead and kick it over to you. Same questions. First off, you personally as a fan, because I know I've seen some fans that really don't care much about finishing first or second in the group. Do you care? And secondly, what do you expect Inzaghi to do? Is he going to go with his strongest 11, or do you think he's going to rotate again?
So my answer on this has evolved in the last month, or even just a couple weeks.
Well.
Originally, I didn't care about this at all. I wanted the round of 16 for the Club World Cup that's going to be played here in the United States, and then I just said, I don't really care what goes on the knockouts. Well, then things changed, and I looked at the teams, and actually I quote tweeted Adrian Del Monte's tweet that Cristo just showed, and I looked at the teams that are still in the competition, and when you really look at that, even Bayern, Man City, Real Madrid, there are players that scare me from those teams. Bellingham scares me. Haaland scares me. Yeah, go down the list. There are managers that scare me. The teams, they're flawed. They're all flawed. At least as of now, they're all flawed.
As of now, for sure.
And that's what made me kind of change my answer. I think we can do both. And I hate saying that because it's going to bite me probably later. But I think we can do both. And it's the hope that kills you.
No,
and another thing that kind of made me change my mind on this is listening to ESPN FC as I do to torture myself, and the Prem faces on there, and listening to when they had a question sent in from a fan on our Arsenal, the next contenders after the top group, right? The Real Madrids, the Bayerns, etc. And the host said, well, who else is there besides that group? And it's just like, and one Don Hutchinson, to his credit, said Inter. And he said, Inter? What? And it's just like, yeah, they laughed him off. And it's I want to prove them wrong so badly. And I think we can do it. As far as the Benfica game, I think he's going to go full strength. It's sandwiched in between Udinese on Sunday or Saturday, and Lazio on the Sunday. I think he's going to rest players against Udinese, and then on the Tuesday against Sociedad, he's going to go full strength. And I think he should. Because, as Fristo said, those second place teams, they're not very good this year, and first place is important.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm with you guys. To be honest, go ahead, Risto. You have something to say?
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I just wanted to read out the teams currently in the Champions League as first and second place.
Please.
So we have Bayern Copenhagen 1-2, Arsenal PSV 1-2.
Wait, as you go, can you also tell us if there's a chance of that changing in the last match day?
You can continue with your point, and I'll share the screen in the meanwhile.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, but what I was saying is that I'm with you guys. Not only it sucks that as fans you have to start thinking like that a bit, but just from a financial standpoint, I just want us to get as much money as we can possibly from the Champions League, and I'm sure there's a difference from finishing first and second and all of that. You got to start calculating those things just so you don't lose your favorite players. So I want us to finish first, and also I expect Inzaghi to actually try his hardest, and as Joe said, give us the best 11 that he possibly can, while also keeping in mind that we have Lazio coming up. Lazio have been struggling in the league, but that's one team that since Inzaghi has become our coach, that in my opinion, we haven't really dominated as I wanted. We seem to have lost to. I believe we've lost to them each year. You know,
Yeah, the
we beat
Olympico
them
especially. Yeah.
at the Olympico. So that's a match. That's a demon that I want us to slay. So that's it to wrap up the Champions League. Unless you guys had something you wanted to add, I think Risto is gonna show the share the screen. So let's go ahead and do that, Risto, and then we're gonna go to Napoli to wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. You have Bayern Munich that has qualified so far.
Oh yeah.
Copenhagen are playing Galatasaray. Just imagine Inter Galatasaray, Icardi coming back to Matt. That would be a dream scenario. We have Arsenal PSG 1-2 already qualified. You have Real Madrid
Wait,
already
wait. Give me a second. So Arsenal are definitely gonna finish first in that group, right? They have 12 points, and
Yeah.
PSG have
Yeah.
8. Okay, so
Yeah, and PSV are qualified, yeah.
okay, so that's it for that group.
You have
Okay,
Real Madrid already qualified as first, and
then-
Napoli most probably are gonna qualify it with Braga and Napoli playing each other.
okay.
You have Inter and Real Sociedad playing against each other for the first place.
hmm
You have Atletico Madrid and Lazio, and they're playing each other for the first place.
For the first place.
Dortmund and PSG are playing, and Newcastle are playing Milan. So Newcastle has to win the match, and PSG has to lose against Dortmund. Not impossible. You have Man City and Leipzig, and you have Barcelona and probably
Porto.
Porto. So
Oh
the
yeah,
discrepancy is huge.
yeah. Only the second that was to come out of Milan's group. That's the only team that probably would worry me. Group F. You know,
Mhm.
so whether that's a PSG or Dortmund or Newcastle as a
Agreed.
second team. But yeah, I think we definitely should go for the first, and that's not nothing's guaranteed, of course, but that would give us a better chance of moving on to at least the quarterfinals of the Champions League. All right, so now let's get to it. Let's get to it, guys. Yesterday was the big match that Inzaghi was preparing for that caused him to make 8 changes in the Champions League match. It was against Napoli, and as you guys saw, our boys they performed. They really did not let us down. It was I'm not gonna call it a domination because Napoli did have their chances. They had their moments in the games as well, the game as well. But the scoreline says that we were the much better team and 3-0. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with Joe this time. Go ahead, bro. Give me take me through your emotions. First off, before the match, tell me how you felt. Did you expect us to win? Did you expect a draw? What were your feelings? And tell me the game.
Yeah, so before the match, I was less nervous than the match against Juventus. Even though it was Mazzari's coming home party for Napoli. Mazzari doesn't exactly intimidate me as much as Allegri. Sorry. But, you know, I was a little concerned because Napoli have 2 world-class players up front. Let's be real. Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen are world-class. And, you know, it was a little that's the only thing that really worries me about that team. Obviously, they have other players too, but they don't have a left back right now, and I knew we could exploit that space. And to add to that, as the match progressed, I'd say from minute 1 to minute 90, I was impressed with the performance. There were moments where we fell off a bit, we're a bit off the tempo, but overall, I was so impressed with the defense, the center backs as a unit. Even when De Vrij went out and Carlos Augusto slotted, he was fantastic.
Yep.
I think Constacorta, former Milan defender, said during our Champions League match he was doing the pregame for the Champions League match in Italian against when we played Benfica.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Inter are the best team defensively in Europe. And when I read that quote, I said, that's a high compliment. And one
The
I
guy
did not.
knows his defenses.
Yes, he does. And I was taken aback by that. But after watching that Napoli match, I'm just like, dude, maybe onto something. Because that was a makeshift back line of Darmian, who's not a first stringer, as much as I love him. A Cherby, who is a first stringer. And Carlos Augusto, who slotted in for minute 16. And it's like they hardly allowed Napoli a sniff at times. And yes, Summer was great. He made some fantastic saves. But that defense was elite. Elite. And I don't know what you guys think about that, but I was so impressed.
No, I agree 100%. I'm gonna throw it to you in a bit, Risto. But since we're talking about the defense, I've been impressed as well. When you talk about when you see the struggles Onana is going through in Man United, I was watching. I think their match against Galatasaray, and they said like, "Hey, listen, this is not the same guy that we saw at Inter last year, and maybe it's time to start looking at the defense that was playing in front of him." And that's what it is. We saw how Lukaku mentioned it last year that we started the year trying to play a high line and being more forward thinking, but when that wasn't working, we decided to start to go back to the low block and attack on the counters, and that's exactly what's been benefiting not just the defense but also the goalkeeper. Summer has made tremendous saves, reflex saves when he's been called upon, but that hasn't been as often. So that defense, definitely deserves the credit, not just by individuals, but the system that Inzaghi has implemented of how the team the defense, because it seems to be like interchangeable. The Vry or Serbi, when Bastoni's there, we were fine. When Pavar was there, we were fine. And Bisek, in my opinion, okay, he's been the I guess the suspicious player out of all of them, and of course that's because he's young, he's learning, and this is a big jump from him from Denmark where he was playing last. So we got to give him some grace. But other than that, it seems like whoever Inzaghi happens to throw in back there, it just does a job and does it well. So yeah, I agree. The defense has been much improved this year, and I'm glad that it's starting to get the credit that it deserves. Risto, let's talk about the defense, since that's what we're talking about right now, and then we'll evolve more about the game.
You pointed out that Sommer didn't had much to do in the past. I mean, at least Napoli. But I think that's the most important quality in a goalkeeper to be concentrated and to be present when called upon.
Yeah,
I think that's the sole quality that a goalkeeper has to be a world class.
I think I
Like,
know where you're going with this.
no, no, no. I'm not gonna even go anywhere else. Going, going a bit front to the defense. I
Mhm.
think as a unit we have been amazing this season. I mean,
Yeah.
you can take out Pavard, a World Cup winner, a serial winner with Bayern Munich, and put someone like Darmian, who was brought in for nothing, to be,
Hmm.
I don't know, backup to the backup, and he's been amazing. You put
Yep.
in a Cherby, he's a world class. You put in Carlos Augusto, who even Inzaghi said, I think in the post conference, that he hasn't played as center back in a year and a half. The last time he played as a center back was for Monza in the last, I
It's
think,
Serie B, right?
round of the Serie B.
Hmm.
So I think that's something that we have to have our eye on. But when someone is called upon this season in the defense, they reached out and they answered correctly, which hasn't been the case last season.
Agreed. Agreed. All right, so let's keep going then. Joe wanted to definitely give the defense the praise, and that's definitely something that I agree on. I'm glad that we kind of made it a section within the match to give the defense the praise that it needs. And again, it's not just individual players; it's Inzaghi who's realized, okay, this is how I want to set up this team to defend. To defend, and this is how we're going to be more successful. And I don't remember Gvara giving us much many problems yesterday. And Austin, man, he had a couple moments, and also the penalty, which I definitely want us to talk about. I don't want us to just graze over it since it's an Inter podcast. I want us to actually have a deep talk about that as well. Okay. But let's talk about Hakan's goal, guys. First off, of course, I'm sure you guys have seen the rival fans talking about the foul in the build-up. Do you guys believe there was a foul in the build-up? And of course, that strike by Hakan. You guys have seen the gif that's been going around. The ball it doesn't touch the ground. The trajectory is something I can watch on loop over and over again. So I'm gonna throw it to you first, Joe. Tell me, do you think there was a foul in the build up, and tell me what you thought about the goal.
So I think there was a foul in the build-up for the first goal.
Mhm.
Now that doesn't take away from Hakan's strike,
Yeah.
but there was a foul. If we believe that Alexis Sanchez in what was that? That was the derby in Inzaghi's first year where we lost 2-1. If we believe that he was fouled in the build up to that goal,
Yeah.
we kind of have to believe that this one was too. So perhaps a bit fortunate in that regard. But overall, that goal is stunning. That goal is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Um, in terms, do you want me to touch on the penalty, or do you want to touch on that later?
We can touch on it a little later. Let's talk about
Okay.
the goal first, and let's see if we can go in order. I think the penalty happened in the second half, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so let's touch about the penalty after we're finishing discussing the goal. But yeah, Risto, the goal. I mean, first off, the foul. Do you believe there was a foul? I appreciate Joe for saying that he thinks it was a foul. You know, like that's honesty. And tell me, Risto, tell me your end. Do you think there was a foul in the build up? Should have been called back, and also the Hakan strike. Tell me how you feel.
I don't think it was a penalty, just because
No,
Lobotka said.
not the penalty. The
Oh, sorry.
foul.
It wasn't a foul because Lobotka actually put
Yeah.
his body in front of Lautaro, and then he fell off, and then Lautaro did what he did. So I think it was initiated by Lobotka, and that's why it wasn't called for a foul. I think that was a key moment in the whole build up of the goal.
Uh-huh.
And I even have a video, but regardless, I think that was the main reason why the referee didn't call it as a foul. And then the game went on, the play went on, and the goal was simply magnificent. Hakan has been an amazing signing, an amazing player so far for us, and he
Yeah.
managed to replace Brozo as the playing playmaker, which I thought was probably impossible.
Yeah.
But he yet again showed us how good of a signing he was, even last year, and now he has performed in another position. So it wasn't a foul, but I think the goal was. I mean, I know it was magnificent.
Okay. Okay. So Risto doesn't think it was a foul. Me personally, I wasn't able to see the game live, so I wasn't reacting with everybody. So I guess I had that clarity of seeing it in a vacuum by myself, watching the game by myself late night. Um, when I saw it, it seemed like Lotaro not only he played the ball, he got the pass off, and he was just falling backwards and kind of pulled Lobatka down with him as he was falling backwards. To me, the fact that Lotaro actually played the ball and passed it, I wouldn't have called that a foul. So personally, I'm okay with how it went. And I say that to say this: had the referee decided, you know what, this is a foul, Lotaro pulled him down. Look, we're watching it. You see, he passes it, he plays the ball, and then as he's falling, he pulls him down. Had the referee decided this is a foul, I wouldn't have complained about it.
Fair.
But I'm glad that he let it play, and we get to have that goal in the archives. Man, that was a beautiful strike. You don't catch strikes like that as often. You could do it in practice as many times as you want, but to do it in a game like this, that was sublime, man. And I can't say much about Hakan. A guy that was a meme to us when he was playing for Milan. He was one of the easiest guys to pick on. Now he's turned into be one of the first names in the starting 11 for us and one of the most important players. You know, especially we were just speaking about Asnani and how questionable he still is. So that tells you how important Hakan even is to us. So I guess that's gonna wrap up the first goal. Let's move on to the next episode. Then the next episode in the game that is worth discussing is Osimhen's penalty shout in the second half. Um, Joe, you were gonna start off, and I kind of stopped you earlier, so I want to give you the opportunity to take a stab at it at first. Tell me, how do you feel? Do you feel like it was a penalty? Go ahead. I'll let you start.
No, 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 not a penalty. not. I mean, this is a contact sport. At least it still is, and not every contact is going to be a penalty. And it's a very, very. If you're going to give that, it's a bit scandalous. It's a very light grazing of the Achilles, and no, no. I mean, if that was, if we benefited from that call and they called it a penalty for us, I wouldn't have felt right. So I looked at it from that regard, and that's kind of just how I feel. Now, I can understand why Napoli fans might feel a bit aggrieved because that's been called before for other teams, but no. I'm sorry, no. I if that starts getting called a penalty consistently, the game's gone.
No, I agree. Bristol, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say about that. You seem surprised at Joe's answer, so I want to hear
I
it.
think if that was in Inter's favor, so if Inter was actually on the receiving end of that foul, I would have been raging at home because it's a contact sport, but at the same time, I think he intervened with Osimhen, and I think that could have been given as a foul. Like if the first one you said was foul, the second one has to be as well, because the second one actually has something to do with interference and him influencing the outcome in terms of Osimhen not getting the ball. So I thought it was like when I saw the situation, I was like, oh, this is a pen. Yeah, it's a light touch, but if it was the other way around, I think I would have wanted Inter to receive a penalty. That's how I look at situations like that. If I'm not sure, would I be mad if that wasn't given for Inter? Yeah, I mean it's a light penalty, but it still is a penalty. We've seen handballs given, like slight handballs given as a penalty. So I think it has to be. I've always been the advocate of handballs, always a foul or always a penalty, because you have to make matters simple, because referees, we have seen so many controversies with referees in the past month. I've seen like more than I've seen in past few years or in the past decade, even before VAR. Like there
And
are
it's
so
crazy
many
because VAR was supposed to clean all that up,
but it just VAR brought everything up to the surface. It brought every
A lot of gray
imperfection to the
area.
surface.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of gray area.
So
To me, since we're
Yeah.
discussing the penalty, I want to be honest. To me, I thought that was a penalty. In 2023 football, that's a penalty in my opinion. Because Osimhen did the smart thing by putting his foot between the ball and Acerbi, and Acerbi kind of grazed him in the Achilles, and he took the tumble. I'll go even further and say that a couple penalties that Thuram has won this season, they've been the same kind of penalties, with light little touch, and he went down, and we say, hey, here's the contact, it's a penalty. So in my opinion, that was a penalty. Hey, as an Inter fan, it benefited us. I'm not gonna cry about it, but since we have a podcast and we are discussing it, in my opinion, I have to be honest. Now, when Joe said that, listen, if we start giving those, the game has gone. I agree with that 100% because I've been watching football since before all of this, and this was a very soft call. This is something that guys probably would get booked for in the 90s, for simulation, trying to trick the ref. But in today's game with the VAR, where they look at the minimal contact, everything's in slow motion. In my opinion, it should have been given. Maybe because the referee waved it off and there was no clear and obvious error. There wasn't nothing as egregious enough to make him change it. Maybe that's why they didn't change it. But in my opinion, it should have been given. That's how I feel about it. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else to the penalty incident before we move on to the next episode of the game, but that was my opinion. Okay, so let's go on then. The second goal. That second goal that happens, I believe, with Carlos Augusto. He has that touch to Lautaro on the left wing, I believe, and he was able to spot Barella making that delayed run from the midfield, and beautiful pass. and Barella with that skill, able to do the twinkle toes thing and dribble and finish. What a goal! And that's coming off fresh. I mean, I know we speak a lot about football Twitter as if it's really like the center of the football world, but I think us being from Twitter and having Twitter accounts, we kind of know what's going on in the football Twitter world. I say that to say this. Before the game, there was this big Premier League account pretty much criticizing Barella, saying that if he had to play in a Premier League, he would not be able to play in a big seven side because he lacks the speed or chance creation or whatever it was. And to me, that game yesterday was a complete display of all those skills that he said that Barella didn't have, and that was the goal was a coronation of that. So I'll go with you guys. I'll go with Risto first. How do you feel about that second goal? Tell me your reaction. Was that a relief to you? Did you feel like the game was over by then? Let's go. Tell me.
That goal was fucking amazing. Because going from Çalhanoğlu's goal to Barella's goal,
Yes.
it's like, from one amazing thing to another.
Yes.
I was amazed with his ball handling. It's not something that we haven't been used to with Barella. As you said, the comments that we saw on Twitter, I mean, they're not even worth commenting or talking about because, like, most of Inter's team would dominate the league, and especially the coach. I think, like, I'm not even gonna waste more than 10 seconds. The goal was amazing. The build-up play was really good. I liked Carlos Augusto's touch with the outside of his left foot. Lautaro being unselfish as ever with cutting inside and passing the ball to Barella, and Barella just a silky smooth touch, scoring an amazing goal.
So tell me, how do you feel at that moment? I believe this was the 61st minute. Of course, there's plenty of time to go. I'm sure you didn't think that the game was over, but did you feel like, okay, you know what, we got this. We're gonna be able to see this through, or we're gonna go in and score more? Tell me what were your thoughts when that second goal went in?
Pazza Inter.
Passar Inter. So you feel like, okay, what, anything can happen.
I mean, you hope for the best, but
the worst could happen.
I mean, that's always a possibility. But I think Napoli was not very potent throughout the match, and although one would be worried about the result and worried about the outcome, I think deep down I was calm because it's Pazza Inter, but also this Inter feels different. This Inter has showed to be different than other versions of Inter, and I was at peace because I knew that we had all the pieces in the right place. So even if we considered, I think we would have had a higher chance of bouncing back to 3-1 than we would be to conceding another goal for the match to end 2-2.
Okay, yeah, I'll go to you now, Joe. Same questions. First off, watching it live, I'm sure like at 1-0, you're probably thinking, okay, we need to get the next goal. We need to put this away. Did you feel like that second goal was like a relief that tells you, okay, we're going to be able to get away from the Maradona with the 3 points? Or did you feel like, okay, Pazza Inter, it doesn't matter. We could still lose this or draw this?
So usually every single time we're up in a game and it doesn't matter what the score is, I always feel like, okay, we got to get to the 90th minute, and if it's 3-0, okay, I think we're fine. Because Pazza Inter, right? This match and this team has given me a different feeling. And I don't know what it was. After that second goal goes in, I had a confidence. I don't know what it was, but it was confidence that we can do this now. Not that the match was won, because 2-0 is a very dangerous lead.
It is.
But we can do this. And I was very confident. I was very confident after that went in. It's a beautiful goal. I actually had to watch it twice on when I watched the match the second time, because I didn't realize Carlos Augusto came up there. And I was just like, where'd you come from, buddy? Like, I didn't realize that Augusto came up for that goal, and it was like, wow, His touch was excellent, and the interchanging of positions with DeMarco was very interesting.
No, I agree. I feel like that's something that I wanted to ask you guys. Of course, we've seen it, we saw it, we see it all the time with Bastoni when he's fit and playing. That license to go forward and get involved in the attack. Um, do you feel like Carlos Augusto played that role as well as Bastoni did? Because to me, seeing him and DeMarco interchange, like you said, it was quite impressive to me, and it felt like the Napoli players didn't know how to defend it. They didn't know which one of them was gonna go and which one of them was gonna stay at points. So tell me, how do you feel about Carlos Augusto covering that role?
I don't want to be too reactionary over one match, but I also will admit that I considered after watching that match and his performance at center back, both defensively and in attack, whether he should remain in that position full time as a left center back. And now, obviously, not at the expense of Bastoni, but maybe you could do a work out of rotation sort of thing.
No, for sure.
He was that good. He was that good.
No, I agree. I thought the same. Honestly, I thought the same. And of course, he hasn't been bad and as a left wing back, but I definitely feel like his performance yesterday as a left center back was better than was probably his best performance at Inter so far. Maybe I'm forgetting a match. If I am, I apologize. But just fresh off my head, I felt like that was the best. That was the most important performance that we've gotten from Carlos Augusto. All right, so let's wrap it up. The Napoli game with the third goal, the dagger. Um, how do you guys feel? Of course, watching your team win a big match like that against the reigning champions 3-0 is an amazing feeling. But watching that third goal go in, it's like knowing what the talk is going to be around Italy about how dominant Inter are and how it's going to become, you know what, if we don't win it now, it's a failure. It's all that stuff. How do you guys feel about that third goal? Let's go with Risto first, and then I'll go to Joe.
I mean, Inzaghi said the best. We we played Benfica. We were 3-0 down. Everyone was piling on Inter. Now Inter wins 3-0. Everyone is praising Inter. So there's no escaping the spotlight and the limelight. But good teams never do escape the limelight. They just enjoy the time when they are not in the limelight. They just getting their shit together to go back to the limelight. So the third goal was just cherry on the cake, and a really good assist from Cuadrado, a player that I've been excited to see at Inter, a player that had a few injuries in the season so far. So him coming back in such a huge game and assisting to Thuram, who rounded up the game with a goal, and I couldn't be happier for him. It was, we at the time we knew Inter, and we knew that the match is gonna be a win in Inter's favor. They had a couple of chances before the goal that Thuram scored, but nothing serious, I don't think. Thuram fully deserved the goal. So it was a jammy goal, but I think Thuram's instinct to escape the defense and to score a tap in, I think that's a quality that like elite strikers have. That's what Icardi had, and that's what Thuram is probably having at the moment and developing as the season progresses.
No, I agree, and that's the main thing I always try to mention every time we speak about Turam. This is his second year playing as a striker full time. So in his first year playing in a 2-man striker system, so he's still learning. There's no telling, because we see how the quality in the player, how technical he is, how smart he is. He's an intelligent player, so he's gonna figure it out, and he's gonna get better than he is right now as a striker. So to me, in 2-3 years, Turam could be a guy that we could actually think about as a 20-goal scorer. I believe he has the ability to do it. and that's on top of him being that guy that creates all the assists and draws all the penalties. So Joe, tell me how you feel about that third goal. Of course, it's the cherry on the cake. Like, was it like a moment for you that signifies, the changing of the guards per se, or am I going a little too far, too early, too soon?
No, not at all. One thing I will say about that goal is I just want to piggyback on what you guys said. It made me so happy. It's just a tap in, but knowing he's only been a striker for 1 year before this, I'm so happy to see him scoring the easy ones, because we've seen this season, for all the good he's done, he can fluff his lines at times. And to see him score those types of goals made me so happy. It's just like, that's growth right there. And that's just so fantastic to see. And I'll add that the celebration too, the waving, taking off his shirt and waving in the air, was really cool. People were saying it was reminiscent of Adriano when he played for Inter. I forgot what game that was, but it was awesome. So yeah, it was the cherry on top of the cake, and it was a great way to end the match.
No, I agree, 100%, 100%, and I'm sure he knew that he was going to be subbed off anyway, because he saw we had Arnautovic waiting to get subbed off. So he was like, you know what, I'll take a yellow card, take my shirt off, and we're going to go out with a bang. But what do you guys want to add anything else to that Napoli game? Since we spoke about the goals, the penalty, Napoli, of course, they're still a work in progress under Mazzari. So I didn't expect them to give us much trouble. Hopefully, they figure it out and they could at least secure a top four, because it would suck for them to go from winning the Scudetto to completely out of the top four as they currently are. Do you guys want to add anything else to the game? And then before that, I want us to go through the comments and see if we can answer any quick questions or react to comments.
Yeah, I'll just say on Napoli that it's really weird how they've kind of destroyed that whole thing in less than a year. So much for their dynasty, but it's very strange. Hiring Rudy Garcia was weird. Hiring Mazzari is even weirder. So,
and the only player that lost was Kim, right? Really?
Yep. All they lost was Kim, and then they added. Right? They're supposed to get kind of better, but they spent poorly. They sold a key piece, and it just hasn't worked out.
I mean,
sucks.
Replacing Spalletti with Rudy Garcia was never gonna work. Like
that was like replacing Mourinho with Rafa Benitez, right?
Worse.
Like,
he was filling in the Saudi league.
That's crazy. And supposedly he did the same thing Benitez did when he came in, and it's like, you know what, I'm going to get rid of whatever Spalletti was doing is going to be my way, as opposed to just trying to do some kind of continuation. Yeah, I don't remember whose podcast I was listening to. They said that, yeah.
Never mentioned his name once at a press conference. Never mentioned his predecessor's name once at a press conference. He is... I will never understand that man after what he's done at Napoli. Just criminal.
Ridiculous. But wait, we have to talk about Juve real quick before we wrap it up. Guys, I know I'll raise my hand. I was the cocky one saying, hey, the way they're winning the games, it's not sustainable. Soon they'll start dropping points. They can't hang with us. They're still hanging. And yesterday they had us sweat a little bit, because going into that Napoli game, we were in second position because they took care of their business. No matter how they did it, they're continuing to do it the Allegri way. So I'm gonna ask you guys: are you guys shaking in your boots yet for Juve, or you guys at least taking them a little more seriously than before?
I'll let Hristo take this one first.
I see he was shaking his head. Go ahead, Hristo.
With a defense containing Gatti and Rugani,
they're the second best defense in the league right now, behind us.
Yep, exactly. Like, if they win the league, it would be the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. I thought I saw the most remarkable thing I've ever seen with Pioli and Krunic becoming Serie A winners. Like, I would applaud if you can get Juventus to win the Scudetto with Gatti, Rugani, and Weston McKennie, who was shipped out on loan to a shit football club in Germany called Schalke, coming back,
he went to Leeds.
Like, oh my god, with Rabiot, their key player in the midfield. Rabiot.
Okay, like, so let's speak directly then. So, are you saying that you still expect them to eventually fall back to the wayside, and we should start building a lead soon. The difference between the first and the second, is that what you're saying? Because they got Napoli
should-
coming up next.
We should be doing that. I don't think we will, but at the same time, I don't want Inter to be complacent. I don't want Inter to think, "Oh, we won it all," because we haven't. I don't want to see Inter not trying, because if you are complacent in the league, you'll ship that form over in the Champions League, and nothing will ever be done.
I agree.
We
I
saw
don't want
last season-
complacency, but what I do want, I want breathing room. The fact
Yes.
that if they win their game, they played before us. If they win their game, they go first, and then we have to win ours to go back. I don't like that. I want at least 4 or 5 points in between to know at least we can fuck up one game and we'll still be first. You know, that's kind of how I feel.
Good point.
How about you, Joe? Tell me, are you taking Juve more seriously, or are you still, or you like Risto? You expect them to eventually start falling back and us to build a little more lead in between us?
I'm in between those two positions. So on the last pod, I think I said they remind me of Inter and Mancini's first return season.
Yeah, you
In
did.
kind of how, because we had those 1-0 victories at the beginning of the season, and it just didn't look very sustainable in the end, looking
didn't.
back at it.
I agree,
No.
I agree.
So I kind of feel that way. But this Juve team has a lot of structure, and that worries me a little bit. Yes, they have McKinney and other players. I mean, McKinney was hated at Leeds when he went on loan last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they got relegated and they booed him.
Mhm.
And so Allegri's a really good coach. Yes, his football at times makes you want to pound your head against a wall if you're a Juve fan. But he's a good coach. He gets results.
and I think he's won it the most out of all the active coaches right now. Right?
Yeah,
So
and
he knows what he's doing.
yep, and playing once a week. We're not going to run away with this title, I don't think, just because of the amount. I mean, they are playing Napoli on Friday, and I'm fingers crossed Napoli gets something from that. I'm not expecting it because I believe Juve at home. But yeah, we'll see.
The game is being played on a Friday evening. So
Yep.
on Friday the 8th.
Yep.
So that match will, if Juventus fail to win and Inter does, so that means like 5 points or 4 points clear of Juventus.
That'd be awesome.
That's what I'd like. Just a little more breathing room. That's what I'd like. But yeah, we got to wrap it up real soon. But first, I wanted to do a quick scan, Risto, if you can, of the comments. See if we can just answer some quick questions and
Sure.
react real quick. Thank you everybody for coming on. I know it was short notice, and you guys showed up for us as always. We appreciate it. Oh,
I saw the comment.
thank you, Dan.
So in the name of everyone, happy birthday, Dave.
Thank you, guys.
A year older and 10 years wiser. So
100%.
Yes, happy birthday, Dave.
Thank you.
other than that, I think I showed every single comment that popped up.
Okay.
There are no questions, but there were so many observations. So I think the last observation is the one that we should end the podcast on.
Oh, what a bum. You guys saw his whole situation where I guess when Monza equalized, he went and taunted Rabiot, and they went right back and scored, and they lost. Like, what a dope. Like,
He's been
Really had been-
he's been decent for Monza this year too, in a very limited role. But that was so monumentally dumb. What an idiot!
that is him.
I-
But all right then, guys. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're gonna try to go live after the next match against Udinese, and hopefully we get more breathing room between us and Juve, and we start building at least a little bit of a lead, so I could be a little more comfortable. Risto, you want to send us off, and don't forget the. brothers and sisters of the world. All right, great stuff, fellas. Great stuff. Great stuff.